Is your business future ready? Today at LinkedIn Sales Connect, we will face the future together, creating a space to build community and exchange ideas. Welcome to Sales Connect 2024. To kick us off, please welcome to the stage Gail Moody-Bird, Vice President of Marketing, LinkedIn for Sales.
How's everybody doing? What a great group. What a great group. Welcome to this incredible space, the TED Theater, and to LinkedIn Sales Connect. We're so glad to have you. My name is Gail Moody-Bird, and I'm Vice President of Marketing for LinkedIn Sales Solutions. For me, Sales Connect is the manifestation of a dream, bringing together leaders like yourselves who are eager for connection. So we're bringing you together for a few hours of conversation, learning, and connection, something we found our customers craving. Just a few months ago, we hosted a dinner for customers at Lazy Bear in San Francisco, and we found ourselves closing the place down as there was so much to talk about. That's my favorite personal story, but we've had tremendous success with events, many local events like this, gathering sales leaders all around the world over the past 2 years since I've been here. That's the spirit that we want to bring to this event today. We're doing 6 cities over the next 8 weeks, but we're kicking off here in New York. So New York is very special for us. We've got over an hour of content, just about an hour of breakouts intended to spark rich discussions, and then a reception to close out the day. My wish for all of you, each of you, is that you leave enlightened, challenged, and with new relationships, which is really what LinkedIn is all about, isn't it? So following this event, you'll hear much more about how we plan to keep you all connected in community with more gatherings and more connection points throughout the year. So, to kick off the day, let me bring to the stage my dear partner in this business, our VP, our CRO, and our customer zero for everything that we build for all of you, Alyssa Merwin Henderson.
And welcome to Sales Connect 2024. It is wonderful to be here in such an amazing group, with an amazing group of leaders. I have the privilege of hosting today's event, and I also have the privilege of spending time with folks like you every day, leaders who are driving growth and shaping the futures of your companies. In fact, Rob, I don't know where you are in the audience, but you and I were chatting this morning about how much we were looking forward to the sessions, being able to learn together and really understanding how we can drive growth during this transformational moment. Now, as the revenue leader of LinkedIn Sales Navigator business, I understand the need to transform sales, unlocking bigger deals, increasing win rates, and driving growth. It's what we're all after, and that's what we're going to spend our time together today talking about. I spend a lot of time every week with CROs, and there tend to be a few themes that always come up in our conversations. And I hope that these sound familiar. The themes start with some conversation around how can we acquire more new customers while also retaining and growing our existing customers? How can I drive more productivity across my sales force in order to drive more profitable growth for my company? And lastly, how do I prepare for the future? Navigating today, but also looking ahead, especially as it relates to Gen AI. Now, these are some complex questions, but these are the questions that we're going to talk about together. And our intent today is to share some perspectives, to spark some ideas, and to learn together. And we are in a unique position to be able to do this because at LinkedIn, we have a unique lens in the world because of the place we sit, because of the customers that we support, and because of the platform we've built. Sales Navigator is built on trusted data from the world's largest professional network, and we've integrated AI in a way that no one else can match. And so we're excited to share a bit more about both our perspectives and about our roadmap a little bit later today. So first of all, thank you for for being our valued customers. Thank you so much for choosing to spend part of your afternoon with us. And here's to an afternoon of inspiration, of collaboration, of learning, and of new ideas. So welcome again to Sales Connect. To kick us off, let's hear from LinkedIn CEO, Ryan Roslansky.
Hello, and welcome to LinkedIn's Sales Connect 2024. I'm excited to kick off this event where business leaders like you are gathering to discuss how we are all trying to stay ahead in the changing business landscape. At LinkedIn, building solutions to connect sellers with buyers is a top priority because that's the driving force behind economic growth in the global economy. Over the past year, I've spoken with many of you, and a common challenge has emerged. How do we accelerate growth in a complex environment? The shift has moved from growth at any cost to financially responsible growth. And that's why I'm excited about the announcements you're going to hear more about today. We're introducing new AI features in Sales Navigator to help every team member perform at the level of your top sellers. These tools will make it easier to find contacts and provide comprehensive insights about buyers. It uses our authentic first-party data to streamline prospecting, engagement, and deal closing, freeing your sellers to focus on building relationships and driving growth. And stepping back, we're building all of this on top of the trusted foundation of LinkedIn. Behind that blue app that's on many of your phones is a mapping of the world's economy. More than 1 billion members and over 70 million companies. Our economic graph offers unparalleled insights about movement in the global workforce as it updates over 5 million times per minute. Using that data, our AI technology in partnership with Microsoft and our verified identity platform, we build trusted AI products that help create economic opportunity for every professional. As we move forward, remember, the leaders who stay agile and invest in both skills and technology will be the ones driving the most impact. By embracing AI to streamline work, elevate sales productivity, and build deeper customer relationships, you'll position your teams and your business for more sustainable growth. Thank you all again for your partnership with LinkedIn as we all become future ready together. Have a wonderful Sales Connect. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Alyssa Merwin-Henderson, Vice President of Global Sales Solutions, LinkedIn, and Matt Dixon, author and founding partner, DCM Insights.
Well, hi again. I'm excited to begin the first session of our afternoon by welcoming Matt Dixon, founding partner of DCM Insights, also co-author of The Challenger Sale, a #1 bestseller, which sold over 1 million copies, also co-author of The Jolt Effect, which recently was published. And perhaps most importantly, for me at least, Matt is a very dear friend and former colleague from our time together at the Corporate Executive Board.
You just need to get out more, Alyssa.
Yeah. Matt, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to an insightful conversation.
Absolutely.
So first, let me explain why I thought to invite Matt here to spend time with all of us. As I mentioned, I lead the LinkedIn Navigator business, and I'm often asked, what are some of the trends that you're seeing in the industry? Now, I get a front row seat to that every day, but I also, probably like many of you, I devour sales audio podcasts and audiobooks at 2x speed, but when I really want to know what's going on, I turn to Matt, because he is a sales anthropologist, as I think you refer to yourself. And I find that Matt is one of the people that just has a pulse of what's going on in the world. So as I thought about how should we spend our time together, I thought you as leaders who are each trying to drive more growth for your organizations needed to hear from Matt directly. So we're going to spend a bit of time today talking about the biggest challenges and changes that are happening in today's B2B buying environment and what the top organizations are doing to navigate it. So Matt, I'd love to talk through those challenges through a frame of, first, what's happening, what's the data show? Second, what are most companies doing? And then third, what should people be thinking about instead?
Perfect.
Sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so for the first challenge, I think one of the topics that you and I have spent a lot of time talking about is the increasing complexity of buying decisions because of so many more stakeholders involved in decision-making than ever before, which is creating all sorts of havoc for our salespeople and also creating more risk in deals than many of us as leaders are aware. So Matt, can you talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing and what's happening out there?
Yeah, this is going to be the drinking from the fire hose version of some of the research. About 15 years worth of research, I think now it's gone into this question. So if I rewind the clock back to, it was maybe around 2010 or so, we started a study when we were together at CEB, which is now part of Gartner Group, to track buying committees and how those were growing over time. We ended up writing a book, which is more of a cult classic, I think, than Challenger was, but it's called The Challenger Customer. You might be familiar with that, where we actually shared some research around how buying committees were growing. And at the time, and don't laugh, but at the time, we revealed this sort of crazy number of 5.4 stakeholders per B2B purchase decision. Now, when I share that with people today, they laugh and say, we have like 5.4 committees of 5.4 stakeholders each. So it's, and that feeling is not just one that is, you have a suspicion of. It's one that is actually validated by the data. So fast forward to today, our former colleagues in the sales practice at Gartner Group continue to track this. And so the latest data shows that while it might have been 5.4 back in 2010, today it's 12 on the low end and could be upwards of 20 stakeholders in a large-scale disruptive transformational purchase. So it's not just herding cats, it's like herding cats, dogs, and bicycles, right? You've got senior stakeholders, you've got technical users, folks up and down the food chain, folks in different markets, different offices, different parts of the business. You've got all the sales prevention departments like procurement, legal, and finance, right, weighing in. And so this really creates havoc for your salespeople. And actually, I think a lot of what's accelerated this, in my own personal view, is that when we shifted a large part of the sales process to virtual during the pandemic, and we've kind of settled back where we're out there on the road, we're visiting with clients in their offices again, but our clients like virtual, right? And one of the things they like about it is there's zero marginal cost for them to invite like everybody on their side to sit in on the demo and to get eyes on the proposal. So I don't think there's any putting that genie back in the bottle.
I think you're right. And so that's what's happening.
Yeah.
What's sort of conventional wisdom? What are sales teams doing today?
Right. So this has been pretty consistent for a very, very long time. If you go back to like the 70s and you look at some of the early solution selling work and some of the sales training that was being offered to sales reps back then, or you fast forward to today and you sit in on a sales training program, you read a sales book, you sit in on one of your manager coaching sessions with a rep, the feedback or the guidance that we give salespeople in this scenario where you're herding cats is very, very consistent, which is go find Vito, right? The very important top officer. Find the economic buyer, the C-level decision maker, and get in with that individual. Because in a world where you got to herd cats, you need somebody who can kind of like overrule the cats and say, hey, we're going to go in this direction. We're going to buy from this vendor. We're going to go with this proposal. We're going to switch suppliers. We're going to go down this transformational path. And the key to getting that done is finding the person in the corner office, right? So that's the conventional wisdom.
Okay, so my guess is that's not what we should be doing. So
right.
How should we be thinking about it?
Right, I tipped my middle a little bit there. So I don't want to suggest that senior decision makers are unimportant. Obviously, they are important, but the research is also pretty clear on this point that in today, look, going to the senior most, the economic buyer back in like the 50s or 60s and finding that person who rules by fiat and can make everyone else in the organization get on board and just say, this is the direction we're going, get on board. That may have worked back then, but in today's world, what we find is senior decision makers rule by consensus, or they kind of govern by consensus. And so the number one thing senior decision makers care about is not whether you do anything of value, whether your solution is priced fairly, whether it offers a good value proposition to their company. It's does everybody else on my team support this decision as well? And so when you fight your way into the corner office, what that means is as a seller, they're just going to turn you back around and say, hey, Alyssa, this sounds great, but I need you to go meet with this person, this person, this person, this person, and let me know what they say, and then let's have a meeting, and let's have the wailing and gnashing of teeth, and let's arm wrestle over this. So it's all well and good to fight your way in the corner office, but what happens when you get turned right back around to go herd cats, right?
Right, exactly.
So So what do you do? Okay, so what we found in our research, based on a study of several thousand business-to-business stakeholders, is that generally speaking, customer stakeholders fall into three broad categories. So you've got mobilizers, talkers, and blockers. There were 7 specific types, but we don't have time to go through all 7, so I'll just give you the high level here. Who are each of these categories? Who are these stakeholders? So mobilizers are very interesting. These are not easy conversations for your salespeople. These are the people who will poke holes in your ROI projection, who will push hard on your value proposition, who will really make you explain the white space between you and your competitor. And again, conversation with a mobilizer is tough, but it turns out those people, if you can get them on board, have the skill and the will to get a big, broad, and dysfunctional buying committee to agree on something more than the lowest common denominator, which, as we all know in sales, is don't do anything, right? Stay the course, minimize disruption, save money, keep using the system we use today, use the incumbent supplier, don't switch, don't go down this transformational path. Buying committees are very good at doing nothing. Mobilizers are very good at getting them to do something. So when the knives come out in the buying committee, they lean into those arguments, right? Talkers, these are stakeholders who the average salesperson loves talking to. These people are generous with their time. They'll walk the halls with you. They'll introduce you to their colleagues. They'll dish the dirt. They'll tell you who really holds the purse strings and whose political capital is on the upswing or is waning inside the organization. But really, that's all they're good for. Because again, when the hard conversations start happening in the buying committees, people kind of lean back. They don't lean into it. And they're the people who will come out of that meeting and string your salespeople along endlessly. So, there was a lot of disagreement, Alyssa, and I don't know if now is the right time. We're really heads down executing our strategy, so why don't we pick up this conversation in 6 months, knowing all well there's no way that in 6 months' time they're gonna get that dysfunctional buying group to move forward and do something. But again, that's who our average salespeople love talking to, because those conversations are fun. They're generous people. They like spending time with us. The blocker, last category. So blocker, I think, stating the obvious, these people are the defenders of the status quo. They're typically the people who selected the last vendor, the incumbent supplier, or they're the people who invented the homegrown internal legacy system, right? So they have a lot to lose by going with another supplier, with another vendor. Now, what we find is that these people can be disaster for a sale, and what a lot of salespeople do, the big mistake they make is they assume there isn't a blocker out there, rather than doing the hard work of going out and trying to find that person and then managing them and neutralizing them. So the guidance here is equip your salespeople to go find and leverage those mobilizers, because they are the ticket to getting your deal done.
Okay, great. So that's our action is let's reevaluate how are people spending time and who are they spending time with, and making sure that the mobilizers are clearly identified and we're moving things forward. So that's challenge number 1.
Yep.
The other thing that we've talked a lot about is something that you refer to as no decision losses. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so we wrote the Jolt Effect back in 2022, and we wrote this book based on a data set of 2.5 million recorded sales calls. And one of the biggest surprises that came out from this research was that anywhere between 40 and 60% of the average seller's qualified pipeline will end up ultimately being lost to no decision. Now, this is a huge deadweight loss. For a salesperson, for a sales manager, or leaders like yourselves, when you think about this compounded across the sales team. And I think as a problem is actually getting worse, right? There's a lot more cold feet out there today. Right. When that book first came out, we had people, we debuted it, saying, I don't think no decision losses are a big problem for us. And then they went back and did their own analysis and said, actually, it's more like 70% for us. We're losing to no decision all the time.
Right. Great, and so what's your recommendation? Yeah,
so first, what do most sellers do, or what do we tell them to do, and then what does the research show the best salespeople do? So the first thing is, again, the guidance we give salespeople, when people get hesitant, when buyers get hesitant, and they start to get cold feet, we tell them to go, may not use this terminology, but we tell them to go out and dial up the FOMO, right? Create the fear of missing out for your client. Salespeople, it turns out, do this in a remarkably consistent way. Step 1 is usually to go back and convince the customer of the ROI and the value and all the great things that are going to happen if they just say yes to the proposal. Step 2, when that doesn't work and doesn't sway the customer, is to dial up the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Create this feeling with the customer that they're standing on a burning platform and they have no choice but to move forward. Help them understand the cost of their potential inaction, right? Kind of light a fire under them. And if those two things don't work, most sellers go to the urgency driver, which is the 10% discount that's only good like this week or this month or this quarter, right? It is with remarkable consistency that salespeople do this, but here's the rub, is that as sort of tried and true and tested as those techniques are, they actually make things worse, not better, especially with customers who stated their intent to move forward. They understand that the status quo is no longer tenable and they say, yes, let's move forward. And then they become hesitant. Going back and dialing up the FOMO with these people actually increases the odds they'll do nothing, which is a little bit of a conundrum. So
what should we be doing instead?
So the research shows that bestsellers have figured out that sales is really a 2-act play. Act number 1 really is about dialing up the FOMO. It's about getting the customer to understand the pain of same. The pain of the status quo is actually worse than the pain of change, right? Helping them understand there's a cost to their inaction, creating some urgency, a critical event, et cetera. But once the customer's bought in, what great salespeople understand is that it's time to stop pushing, and now it's time to put your arm, figuratively, not literally, because that would be creepy, but figuratively around the customer's shoulders and instill confidence. Confidence that they're making a great decision. They've configured the solution the right way. They've done plenty of research. They're not going to get surprised after the fact. That you've got their back. They're going to look like a hero, not like a fool, when their name is put on this agreement. And so it's not about dialing up the FOMO. It's actually about dialing down the FOMO, or the fear of messing up. The not safe for work version is FOFU, but they told me it's a family-friendly event, so you guys figure out on your own what that stands for. So it is all about instilling that confidence, right? Making customers feel good about this intellectual commitment so that they actually execute the agreement.
So just in really practical terms, if you were going to leave everyone with one idea on this to go do differently, what is it?
Yeah, so I won't go through all this because we don't have time, but the JOLT is a framework based on the behaviors we find high performers exhibit to instill that confidence. One very tactical piece of guidance is to narrow up the choice set you put in front of your customer. So what's really interesting is salespeople love letting 1,000 flowers bloom with their customers. They show all kinds of configuration options, contract lengths, different partner integrations, like all, DIY versus use professional services. There's all kinds of stuff that salespeople love throwing in front of the customer because they feel like, I want the customer to feel like we are eminently configurable, we can do it the way they want, right? But at some point, if you want your customer to actually pick something, pick a path forward, even if they know they want to work with you, they may not know how to work with you. Do I want configuration A, B, or C? And the last thing they want is to choose configuration C when it turns out package A would have been a better choice. So there is a time and a place to put options in front of your customer, but what best salespeople understand is that after they are intellectually bought in, then you chalk the field, you narrow up the consideration set, and you tell them to move forward with a specific option based on your experience and what you see other customers have success with, right? So you've got to prescribe and recommend a specific path forward.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Okay, as we wrap up, this feels like the perfect time to talk about the last challenge.
Yep.
What are you hearing about AI? And before you answer, based on our research, we found that 40% of executives are confused about AI technologies and don't really know where to start. So
I'm surprised it's only 40%.
Yeah, those are the only ones.
100%
the only ones that admit it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think AI is a perfect example of FOMO and FOMU in that sort of duality, right? On the one hand, nobody wants to miss out. Right? We don't want the market to pass us by. We don't want competitors to gap us and create white space between us and their performance by leveraging AI in new ways to sell more, to engage clients in new and different ways. But at the same time, nobody really understands how this stuff works. Nobody really understands what use cases are the best first step down this path. And nobody wants to be left holding the bag, putting out a lot of money and resources for a technology that doesn't actually get leveraged and maybe makes things worse, not better, right? So there's a lot of FOMO around this. There's a lot of excitement, but I think in many respects that's what today is about, right?
Yeah, that's right. That is what today is about. And one of the things that we advise leaders to think about is, it may be a little early to really have a fully thought through and clear AI strategy for your entire sales force. So what we recommend, rather than trying to come up with an AI strategy, is figure out your AI win. Mm-hmm. What is the one thing or a couple of places in your sales process where you can start to leverage AI to get some quick practical wins that are going to drive impact? We, of course, have some ideas for you already in Sales Navigator that we will share later today. And there are lots of ways to go about it. But my hope is that you'll each walk away from today with a couple of AI wins that you'll also be able to bring back to your organizations. So Matt, Thank you for sharing so much insight. I hope that you all understand why I thought he would be a great person to come spend a bit of time with all of you, and that you do have some ideas of what you might want to think about differently as you think about leading your organizations. So Matt,
thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so we've just covered what's going on in the B2B buying landscape, but as leaders, it's not only important to understand some of the challenges and trends, but also to understand the global economic outlook so that we can identify the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead. So I am very excited to introduce you to LinkedIn's chief economist, Karen Kimbrough, who is going to share LinkedIn's unique perspective on the labor and economic trends so that as you'll be more informed as you set targets and strategies for the year ahead. So Karen, welcome to the stage.
Nope. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. So welcome to the economics portion. There will be a small quiz later today. Right, so I'm Karen Kimbrough. I'm chief economist at LinkedIn. And in my 7 minutes with you, I want to cover 3 things. 1, just let you know who I am. I'll do that quickly. 2, give you a market update. So what are we seeing? What are we expecting? And then 3, let's talk a little bit about AI because every single talk in 2024 has to include AI. So here we go. All right, so right now, 4.5 years in at LinkedIn as chief economist. It's the most awesome job. I get to look at all of the data that we have at LinkedIn. It gives me a sense of what's going on globally across labor markets, across sales, buyers and sellers connecting, how people are engaging on our platform, even in the comments. We get all of that data to try to understand what are the trends, what are the inflection points. And the cool part is that we actually get to share a lot of this data with really important players. So last week I was at the Senate. LinkedIn got invited to testify about AI and skilling. So we talked about what are we seeing in our data. And we just go there to share what we're seeing as insights because they really are so valuable and no one else has them. I am absolutely passionate about using this data and analytics, so I want to take the rest of my time to just give you a few nuggets of what we're seeing and thinking about as we think about how individuals and businesses are navigating this moment of change. All right, so let's go. So LinkedIn's economic graph, that's our fancy name for our data. It spans 1 billion members. You already heard Ryan tell you earlier that there are 5 million updates per minute. It's huge. 68 million companies are putting jobs out there, telling us what they're interested in, looking in terms of skills. Those 1 billion members are telling us what skills they have, where they're located, what school they went to. So we put all that together to get these insights that I want to talk to you about. Right, so before I get there, let me quickly just tell you what we're thinking about the market, because everybody's looking at the market and the macro saying, what is going on? Well, honestly, I'm pretty optimistic. This is just a chart of growth rates, and actually, if I had a little pen in my professor mode, I would change this US number that says 2% for this year to 2.5%. Like we are upgrading our expectations for the current year as we speak. So the world is growing at a nice healthy pace of around 3%. The US is growing at a nice healthy pace of 2.5%. China's a little slow, but they're doing a lot of stimulus to try to speed up, which is a good thing because they are literally the second biggest player in the global stage. And the rest of the world is doing pretty good. So what that means is as we look forward, you know, what am I watching to kind of make a view for next year? This is just this year. What's next year? Well, next year we think is actually going to be pretty good. Let me talk to you a little bit about some of the signals that I'm looking at. 1, think about the stock market. In the US, it's been up 35% since the year began. That's actually pretty good. It's up maybe 14, 15% in Europe. Not as good, but not terrible. Inflation, down to 2% in the US. We're pretty much where we want it to be from the Fed's perspective, so they can kind of rest. They've won that round through all those rate hikes we went through, and now they can focus on the labor market and making sure that doesn't tip off into a bad territory where it's too slow. Consumer confidence. For some reason, the consumer's holding in on there, and when you look at the stock market up, you look at housing prices up, it tells you a little bit about consumer net worth. We know that consumers' net worth is actually up over 10% this year already, which means that if their net worth is up, they're going to be spending. So we do see like pockets of weakness here and there, but generally the economy is in an amazing place right now. And looking forward, we're expecting it to remain so. There are always risks. You can catch me afterwards and I'll tell you all those things. But the story to leave you with is that we're actually in a very good place in the US. Globally, it's more of a mixed picture, depending on what country you're looking at. And then let me bring us to interest rates, because that's really the big story. The big story is that the Fed surprised us maybe with 50 basis points. And it really did kind of give a little bit of a boost in the arm to the economy. It also cleared the way, if you haven't noticed, for a lot of other countries to start cutting. So China, of course, was able to finally do the stimulus they wanted to do once the US went. And so we're starting to see a global easing cycle that will stimulate a lot more investment, a lot more risk-taking, a lot more growth. And so that's what's giving me the confidence for 2025 that we should expect to see what I'm going to predict, and you can catch me later if I'm wrong, some smooth sailing for next year. So very much anticipating that rates will continue to come down and hit 3% by the end of next year. So end of 2025, you're at a 3% rate. That should be good for mortgages. That should be good for credit cards and all the debt that folks hold. So a lot more favorable environment, lower rates, not just here, but globally. All right. So we've got these healthy trends in the macro. The markets are looking decent. Let's talk about the labor market really quickly. No economist would be complete without a table, so here's your table to study. No, I'm kidding. I will tell you what it says, you don't have to read it. The story is, cast your mind back. It's 2021, 2022, and the labor market is looking kind of funny. Recruiters reach out, people say, yeah, I'll talk to you, and then they ghost. It was like buyer's choice in terms of job seekers looking for opportunities. The tables have now turned. So if 2 years ago I were to tell you there were 2 jobs for every job seeker, there are now 2.5 job seekers for every job. So the tables have turned in our data, but also in official data. And what this means is that it's far more competitive for job seekers when they're looking, but it also means that employers have more opportunity to find exactly the right talent. They have a greater choice of applicants. And it should actually ease their wage pressures. So costs will at least stabilize. I can't say they'll go down, but they may not grow as much anymore. So as we're thinking about the labor markets, they are rebalancing. And what we hope is that they don't rebalance into weak territory, but they just rebalance into a territory that's generally favorable and not inflation driving. That's where we are right now. That's why the Fed is cutting, to kind of keep us there and not tip us into a weaker spot. And so now let's quickly turn to AI. I got 40 seconds left on the clock, so I'm going to do this fast. All right, so the way we think about AI and AI in sales is there are always parts of your job that maybe AI could do. And by our data, more than 80% of LinkedIn members are in roles where AI or generative AI can do part of their job. Here are some skills that can be replicated by generative AI in the sales domain. CRM updates, account research, sales prospecting. These are things where generative AI can help do some of the work for you so that you spend time and your team spend time on the things that really matter. Relationship building, leaning into the human tasks where we're optimally positioned to compete against generative AI. And so we took a look, because we can, at LinkedIn, and we said, what exactly are, my magic trick is not working, there we go. What exactly are all the top core skills in the sales profession? By the way, I give this all away for free, so you can take a picture, but I'm happy to share this later if you don't want to. Here are just top 15 skills. The orange ones are human skills. These are things that really humans need to be doing: selling, sales, communication. You'll see negotiation on here, customer service, problem solving, marketing, teamwork, customer satisfaction, relationship development. All of these are top core skills in the sales profession that really humans need to be leaning into right now. The blue ones are ones that maybe can be partially replicated or performed by generative AI. So there we go. You've got this opportunity here in sales to really lean into all of these most human-centric skills at the same time that AI is important. I know you'll talk about more of that later. And so I'm closing now. I can feel the hook about to come out and get me. So here's what I'm gonna leave you with. One, we are at the early stages of the AI adoption cycle. Economists have this whole set of terms for adoption of any new technology. We are in the exploration phase. People are aware of it, they're exploring, they have not yet fully figured out how to implement it into every job function, every process. But you can be sure that every company's board of directors is asking them, what's your AI strategy? So they are looking, and there is a huge demand for AI talent, whether it's expertise or just AI literacy, meaning the ability to use these tools effectively in your domain. And so we're gonna expect to see increasing demand for that talent and increasing need for upskilling of that talent to bring employees along with the managers who wanna implement these new technologies. So we're gonna see productivity eventually, but not now. Productivity actually is rising, but I don't think it's because of generative AI just yet, but we'll see the effects of generative AI probably I would say 5 years from now. And then finally, test and learn, explore, experiment. The only way to learn is by trying and doing. So I encourage you to do that. I am now going to just summarize the whole thing. Get ready for 2025. It will be a good year. We are very positive, particularly because the rate cuts, inflation being down. And I'll leave you now with the last story, which is now is the time to start upskilling and adopting AI where you can in small places, because it's going to take time to show up in the macro data. I think sales is really well poised to be at the tip of the spear here, and I hope that you will lean into the AI as much as you lean into the human-centric skills. Thank you so, so much, and I'm going to pass it now back to everyone else. You can use this code if you want to learn more about what we do. Everything is free and available to you, and I would love to hear your questions. Thank you.
There is a lot of complexity behind enterprise sales. It used to be, 8 to 10 folks sitting on the buying committee. Now we see that at 20 plus.
There's been an explosion in the number of stakeholders that show up now to evaluate purchases, even small purchases on the customer side.
One of our big goals this year has been to really ensure that every single deal is multi-threaded.
We've got more decision makers to reach, more to influence along the buying journey. And right now, what's really important is that our salespeople are prepared and have the right network of contacts to deliver our messages and sell our new offerings.
We need to differentiate ourselves with the quality of conversations we have with our customers.
Research and understanding our accounts so deeply that we are so much more relevant to our customers.
We're always thinking of how do we connect with customers differently, cultivate new customer opportunities, and how do we drive relationships, not just on a transactional basis, but a long-term basis.
We're also looking at AI. How can we be more suggestive and help our sellers in finding a better, more targeted list of accounts to go after?
Please welcome to the stage Dan Shapiro, Chief Operating Officer, LinkedIn.
Thanks everyone for being here. I always find that it's so nice to create spaces where you as leaders can spend time with each other, sharing tips, best practices. My guess is that the person sitting next to you or across the table from you later is going through some of the same things that you're trying to navigate, and it's really wonderful for you to spend the time that you're spending with us. I've been at LinkedIn for 16 years. I'm the Chief Operating Officer, and like you, my responsibility is to help grow the business of LinkedIn. And earlier this year, we had our kickoff meeting. We have a fiscal year that starts in July 1. We get everyone together, and I talked about two things with my team. I talked about how to be successful in the current buying and economic environment. We talked about challenges with buyer groups, crisp messaging, how do we meet the moment in terms of what our customers are going through. And then we talked about AI. And it was a very interesting reflection of, it really feels like living with one foot in the present. How do we deliver against our goals? And also realizing we need to have one foot in the future, because the moves we make now and how we set our teams up for success are going to have implications for years to come. And so I want to create some space just to welcome up in a second some panelists that are living in this duality like many of you are probably living through, and how they're navigating. Because I think it's going to be one of the big challenges that go-to-market leaders face over the coming years. But before I do, I just want to share a few notes on my own journey with AI at LinkedIn. I feel extremely privileged. We are just shipping so much AI product, and we've learned a lot from all the different experiments that we've run. So about 2 years ago, in the summertime, a small group of LinkedIn technical executives went up to Redmond. We're part of Microsoft, and they said, we got something cool to show you. And they showed us the OpenAI models before the world saw them in December. So this was like August. And once we realized they were real, like it's the coolest demo you've ever seen, like magic in a box. You can ask it anything and it talks back to you. And we basically realized we need to rip up the roadmap and plant 100 seeds and figure out what this thing can really do. And that's what we've done for the last 2 years. And so let me tell you 2 conclusions that I've made from all of this experience. The first is that AI is amazing when you take the right tech and marry it with the right data. And what we've found is that our special sauce with data is data about the people that matter to your business, your customers, your candidates, your employees. So our AI can build a great prospecting email. It can build a great summary of what a customer's situation is that might take your team normally hours to compile from a research perspective. It can help you assess a candidate or help a candidate assess a job. But it really is about data about the people that makes AI powerful in a go-to-market use case. So that was like one big conclusion. Second big conclusion is that although everyone's asking about what's your AI strategy, the right framing is to ask, what's my AI win for the next 6 months? And the win that you're likely to find is very targeted, habit-changing improvements in the existing workflow that people already have. So what do I mean by that? I'm about to go to a meeting, click this button in Navigator that helps you sound more informed about the customer before you go in. It is a very simple thing that people can do every day that helps them learn the power of AI and then helps them be more effective in their current job without changing how they do their work. And my theory is that the teams that find these targeted habits are going to be the teams that teach their teams how to think about AI and then will build strategies as the whole world figures out what this technology can actually do. So my hope is that we can create a little bit of time to navigate this complexity of living in the present and also preparing for the future. And with that, I am thrilled to welcome up our panelists to the stage to join me. Please welcome them. How are you doing? Good to see you. All right. Got my cue cards. So let's start with introductions. I'm Dan, everyone, COO at LinkedIn. Why don't we go down and just share a little bit about what you do, how you got to your company, and your responsibilities. Sarah.
Sarah Porter. I lead our global sales strategy, operations, enablement, and proposal services for Accenture. I'm Washington, D.C. based. I met someone in the audience over lunch, and we were remarking, I'm a lifer, almost 25 years. So it's been a journey.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah.
My name's Tom Germack. I'm the SVP of Revenue Operations at Oracle. I live in the Bay Area, San Francisco. I've been with Oracle. I came to Oracle through the NetSuite acquisition, so combined with those 2 companies, 15 years now.
Great. Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. My name is Eyal Steinberg. I'm the general manager of the technical community and client engineering at IBM. I'm actually a boomerang to IBM, which means I was part of IBM and I left to go to some startups and smaller companies, and I chose to come back because I'm really excited about the opportunity and what IBM can do for and is doing for the market.
That's great. So let's start with this idea of how you're thinking about leading and balancing your time with goals that are we all have got a number, right? We're all trying to hit goals in the present, but we're also trying to prepare our organizations for the future. Tom, maybe with you, like how are you thinking about making that trade-off and how you're investing your own time?
Sure. So, I mean, there's an order of operations on how we do things. And I think the first thing is to make sure that our resources are aligned properly to the obtainable or addressable market that we have. So the first thing I'm doing from an investment standpoint is just making sure I have the right amount of capacity, sales capacity to get to our goals. Personally and secondarily, my team, I'm challenging them to consistently challenge the status quo. I think, AI at this point is table stakes. Everybody's thinking about it, everyone's implementing it on some level, and if you're not, you're falling behind your competition. But at the same time, I think I've heard a lot of good points from Dan and the others earlier. Change management is really hard. So we take singular ideas, things that are going to be in the existing workflow or where we integrate it into the workflow so they can make our reps more productive, like particularly around things about saving them time. Time is money, so where can we save our reps time with automation using AI as a force multiplier? But because change management's so hard, I make sure that my team incubates all these ideas and ferrets out any unintended consequences or any upstream or downstream things that might occur before we roll them out. So we're very pragmatic about change management and how we roll out to the field. And I think what I'm hearing and what I'm saying is it needs to be in bite-sized chunks. You can't boil the ocean in today's world.
Sarah, how about you?
I think it's pretty important, we all know, to have a foot in tomorrow and a foot in today, and hopefully balanced, knowing that when you get to tomorrow, it's going to change. So just to reflect on our journey a little bit at Accenture, 5 years ago, we unified our sales organization under our first ever chief sales officer. And at that time, we put out a pretty bold agenda for where we wanted to go and how we were going to transform that organization to enable sales, but also having a mind on what was key with our quarterly results and what we needed to be investing in for those initiatives. And what we were doing at that time to think about managing our cost of sales was rationalizing through labor arbitrage and pyramid strategies. And I look now, and that's no longer our strategy. It's thinking about investment in technology, it's innovation, it's really supercharging our individuals so we can scale to support more sellers. And as you were doing sort of your opening gambit, Dan, I was reflecting, the first time I ever heard about ChatGPT, I was at dinner with you. And it was that
That's
December.
Right. Yeah.
It was,
That's right.
we were having an awesome dinner, and you were talking about the magic box, and you had said, look, we can sort of describe the story we want to tell. And now, Sarah, it's a poem. Now it's a Seinfeld script. I could not have conceived at that dinner, a little less than 2 years ago, where we are now. And, I see Gen AI really as sort of Clark Kent's cape for Accenture.
Love that. Elle, how about you? How are you thinking about it?
So I love this question, right? This balance of short-term and long-term. And I think about it on 3 dimensions or 3 different vectors. As a P&L owner, AI can get expensive. Like, I think we're start looking at month-to-month costs and pretty significant increases as things go viral, which is great. That's what we want. But to afford it into the future, you kind of have to make the money and the profit today to be able to afford it. And my expense bucket is not keeping up with my overall budget is not keeping up with the expenses that are coming, that I have to make priority decisions about what am I not going to do anymore. So I think that's first, to say the only way to be able to afford what all the cool, fun, shiny things in the future are, is I got to make the profit and make the revenue and show the ROI today. So it's got to be real and kind of anchored on real business value. I think the second is, as we think about a scaled organization, we can't have everybody thinking about the future, and we can't have everybody thinking about the present. And we have to be really diligent and really kind of pedantic, if you will, about thinking about who is delivering the short-term revenue and have them very laser focused and not distracted by the next shiny object that could potentially come, and then have a smaller group of people thinking about where are we going to be in 5 years. But there should be no confusion between them. And the third area, which might sound in conflict to number 2, but it's different, is that this cannot be like a IT decision or a business decision. It's got to be a collective company decision. And I think that while there's number 2 is around division of kind of who's thinking about short-term and long-term, 3 is about making sure that we're working across silos of the organization on a common vision of where we want to go with a common set of priorities and trade-offs that we're going to make to actually achieve it.
I love that. In fact, one of the things that we talk about at LinkedIn is that, like, the modern go-to-market team is equal parts sellers and the technology that enables sellers. And so you can't divorce the two, right? Like, they're sort of designed from the beginning to say, well, what's the strategy with the customer, and then how do you empower everyone to deliver against that, with tools and technology.
Totally agree.
Totally love that.
If I could just add to that point there, because I think the trick is that the people who are making the design decisions, have to be somewhat attached to the actual what's happening in the field. And I think the problem is in many organizations is that there's this ivory tower approach where people are so disconnected from reality, and you're either signing up for your AI project that's actually going to impact 8 people, and at the end is not worth the squeeze of the juice. But the best organizations, what we really pride ourselves on, is having executives who are decision makers, who are actually getting the sand and the dirt in their fingernails, because their reality, they were living, how is it going to show up in the country and in the market? And at the end, the bias has to be, how do we show up in front of the customer in any individual country, and more than how does it show up in the ivory tower spread out across a lot of people. So thanks for letting me add that on.
Love that. Let's go to the next question. For LinkedIn and Navigator, so you're thinking about growth, you're thinking about AI. I'm just curious how you think about LinkedIn in that context in terms of unlocking growth for the business and the team. Sarah, maybe to start with you.
Sure. I mean, obviously, relationships are the cornerstone for all growth. You can have the best product, service, price, and it's still not going to land. For us, Navigator is a key component of our end-to-end sales enablement platform. And I think about how it brings together connections and news point of need, which is really critical. I think the differentiator for us with the product is the source and the timeliness. Because as we think about data being the new currency with an unknown inflation, having that accuracy is really what's going to be required to really start to train our Gen AI capabilities. And so just upon reflection, a lot of the things that I've done in my life, I'm sure many of you have as well, is sort of who do you know? How can I, who do you know to help get a job or get that ungettable Taylor Swift ticket? And what Sales Navigator has done for us is, it tells me who I know and more importantly, who I should know. And so I'm very excited to hear about more of the advances you're making with the product.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that we'll be able to show. So I'm excited to see how your reaction is. Tom, how about you?
So I think there's 3 things that I'm trying to do. One is just basic blocking and tackling. Matt was talking about FOMO earlier. We want to make sure that our reps are utilizing the tool and its most recent advances to its fullest. So we try to put on a pedestal those reps that are very successful using the tool and highlight them within the company to create that FOMO so that all the sales reps are following. The 2 other things that are driving a lot of value for us, one is we have an all-bound strategy. So a lot of companies we find, there's marketing doing inbound and sales is doing outbound. We have an all-bound strategy that LinkedIn platform really helps us achieve, which is our marketing team is looking at what is the sales team doing and providing the halo effect. So, what leads do they have in the system? What accounts do they have in the system? Do their account-based marketing and their campaigns against that same population to provide a halo effect. So, whereas customers want to educate themselves a lot more in the buying cycle than they used to, we can do both things at once. And I think aligning against those personas and pursuits, sales and marketing as one unit is far more successful in deal velocity, deal conversion, deal size. So, and the platform that LinkedIn provides allows the sales and the marketing to be in the same place. And the last thing, and this is probably a lot of you already take advantage of, but will be unique for Oracle, is that we are integrating our CX with Sales Navigator. So we're going to get all the benefits of an integrated solution, which and also offer that to our customers. So embedded views, better data hygiene, and then trying to get our reps to a single pane of glass. So bringing all those great insights that come from LinkedIn and putting them into their workflow so that there's no swivel chair from one platform to the other.
Excellent. Yeah.
So let me open a window to what's happening in IBM and probably a lot of other companies. Is there are some really, really smart people who are either tinkering or using models that are probably available to everybody. So let's just say everybody has access to models, to smart people. As you said, Dan, it's the data. And when we bring our insights to our sellers, there's always the same question that comes back. Hey, tell me the next best action. Tell me where I should actually spend my time. Which accounts are the best propensity? And they say, but give me the last mile. Who should I call? Who should I call? And we have a few choices there, right? And I think it's what you said, Dan, at the beginning around the data is the differentiator. If the model and the people are all the same, it's the data that actually changes. And I think what LinkedIn Sales Navigator gives us is the most up-to-date contact information of people with things that are actually trigger events that are happening. Because if we just depend on the data that's in our CRM system, a lot of that data, people have moved jobs, email addresses are no longer valid, there's changes to it. It's not as, there's a time series or time kind of perishability to it. But using LinkedIn Sales Navigator gives us that fresh data and that last mile of who should we actually contact. I think to your point as a design principle is that it's really important for us that we're not bringing our sellers away from their functions. We want them spending as much time as they can in the field with our customers. What we want to do is bring the data and the insights to them in a way that can actually make it meaningful for them. And I think LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and specifically the integrations that we have into our other systems and how the data marries up and we're enriching data together, I think is giving us a really big competitive differentiation.
Excellent. last question, we'll do a little bit of just a quick hit. Like, as a leader at running large organizations, big businesses, but also facing an environment with a lot of change around AI, new technologies, new processes, new best practices, like, what's one thing you're doing to stay at the forefront of the skills that you need as a leader to be effective in the current environment? Eyal, maybe I'll start with you and I'll work this way.
I think there's a tendency to be scared of a lot of these things and to not be vulnerable. And I think for me personally, I'm a lead by the front person. So I am okay to be vulnerable and know there's a lot of things I don't know, but I embrace that kind of fear and the uncertainty that I am leading by the front by showing product demonstrations. Don't tell me, show me how you actually do it. So I like to kind of lead by example personally, get my hands into it, the sand in my own fingernails, and show the rest of the organization if I could do it, they can certainly do it.
Yeah, I think I go to a lot of conferences, I talk to a lot of people, the basics for myself, but really for me it's more about the culture of my team. So I've created a system of values that I was talking to earlier where I want my team to be very curious and challenge the status quo. Like, you need to be constantly evolving and you need to have a bias for action. So you need to be proactive. And this is the drumbeat that I give to my team is we need to be on top of this and bring me the things that you think are gonna have the biggest lift. When you're talking to the sales reps and getting it, the people that are getting their fingernails dirty and the people that are doing the work, crowdsource from them what's going to help them get their jobs be done. Being the ivory tower is something that I'm trying to avoid completely.
Very similar, I think, in the role leading my team that has a lot of offerings and services and people. I feel that I need to know a little bit about a lot and a few things really intimately. So following that playbook now, it's consuming what I can in podcasts. I love watching your videos, Dan, on LinkedIn and reading your articles.
Thank you.
Just to really try to upskill myself because I try to surround myself with a team that amplifies my strengths and offsets my weaknesses. And I sort of see this future world where maybe some of those agents are offsetting the weaknesses and really supercharging me, to go from liking my job to really loving my job because it's going to be a kind of a whole new ecosystem that we're all just preparing for.
Great, love it. And maybe just for me, I think that change management, I think you mentioned, is going to be a huge part of this journey that we're all on. And so I'm trying to push myself to get close to the detail and to be publicly role modeling the changes in the habits that I want my teams to be doing. And so I did over 100 customer meetings last year, and I did them very publicly. And I made sure that my team understood how I was using AI in the process of spending time with customers. And my hope is that they see that and they realize that this is the new expectation, right? This is what we're all doing together. But please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists. Thank you.
That concludes our LinkedIn Sales Connect Live broadcast. I hope the insights shared today have left you enlightened and on the path to becoming future ready. As our CEO, Ryan Roslansky, shared, the leaders who remain agile and invest in both skills and technology are the ones driving the greatest impact. So, embrace AI to streamline work, elevate sales productivity, and build deeper customer relationships. And you'll position your teams and your business for more sustainable growth. While knowing where to start can feel overwhelming, remember what Alyssa shared. Start by identifying a single area in your sales process where you can implement a low-risk solution that delivers tangible results in a short time frame. Finally, I want to thank you for joining our live stream and engaging with each other in the comments. I hope you continue your curiosity for AI and for navigating the path to future ready on LinkedIn and in your organizations. You can start by following LinkedIn for Sales at the link below and joining our daily conversations and community on the LinkedIn platform.